This is not the church of Joseph Smith. This is not the church of Joseph Smith. This is not the church of Joseph Smith.
Drive his way, good soul. Well, now we're starting to see the consequences of Mormons not listening to me. As Nemo earlier this morning over in the UK has been notified by a friend of his who also does a YouTube channel that is Mormon based but still critical about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I've done the videos, but obviously Nemo doesn't watch my channel. Neither does his friend, who's getting excommunicated by the church for his YouTube channel information. Is that this rising generation of Mormons thinks they know everything about the church. And so when the prophets don't do as they believe through their spiritual witness, they are critical. Not in the way that I'm critical, but in a manner in which they think they're helping the prophets do a better job, as if they know how to run the church better. And you see that with all the different groups. You see blacks in the church keep telling the church to be more sensitive to black issues. You see LGBTQIA+ constantly telling the church to be more sympathetic to LGBTQIA+ issues. You see women constantly telling the church to be more sensitive. You see the pattern here? And we can go on the Jews, we can do the homeless, the poor. There comes a point in time where you're supposed to stop and go, wait a minute. If Jesus is perfect, and the church claims to be following Jesus, but the church is not perfect, is it really Jesus' church? You see lots of Mormons claiming that the church is just led by regular men, and they're imperfect. And it's that thinking that gets these rising generation Mormons to believe that they can tell the prophets how to run things. That they can keep going back and saying, hey, you need to be more sensitive on this issue, you need to do this rather than this, you need to be spending the money on this rather than this, etc., etc. No respect for the older generation. And here you see how the church responds. They just excommunicate you. They don't put up with you. Now, no, the church has not excommunicated me. I even went and sat with my stake president back in, I think it was the first part of 2018, in January. And he said, I don't see any reason why you need to be excommunicated. But he wasn't going to scold the bishop who banned me from church. And so, what is apostasy then? The church released their handbook early in, I think it was right after conference of 2020, April conference. And I was kind of surprised. They've always kept it a secret. They had a big old fight over copyright violations with the Tanners for their releasing of the church's handbook number 1. And so this handbook that was released is 1 and 2 combined together, released to the public. And ever since then, they keep making changes regularly, as if they couldn't get it right. And as I started to do those videos, going over it with my audience, I found the section that said it was a whole list of things that the church gave a notification at the beginning saying the church disapproves of these behaviors, but they are not excommunicatable, church court stuff. And so you have sex with your sister, sex with underage children, attending the Church of Lucifer. None of those are considered apostasy. None of those are considered serious enough to be excommunicated. What the hell? But nobody cared. And so I find it strange that the handbook still has in it a section on excommunications for apostasy, because apparently there's contradictions within the handbook itself. So I doubt Nemo's listening, so that he can tell Peter, so that that Peter guy can go in and tell his stake presidents and council that no, I am not to be excommunicated, and then refer to that part in the handbook. It seems clear enough for me. Stake president saw it, and that was before the church came out with that. But the definition given in the handbook for apostasy is repeatedly acting in a clear and deliberate public opposition to the church, its doctrine, its policies, or its leaders. And this is what the new generation does not understand. That when they think they know better, they're being apostate. They're being Korahor. Even though they're faithful Mormons and espouse the Mormon church and its doctrines, going on missions, and etc., etc. And he does recognize that the church sort of sets this all up. And he focuses on the stake president, because the stake president says, hey, you're in violation of this, and this is the definition, and so therefore you're automatically going to be excommunicated. He catches on to that. But he doesn't catch on that in his thinking he knows better than the prophets, and as all these other groups that I listed off already know, the church are already acting in clear and deliberate public opposition to the founder of the church, his doctrine, his policies, and his leadership. This is what I've been trying to get across to Mormons in my channel. This church is not Joseph's church. They branched off, broke off technically, but they're claiming Joseph to justify their existence. But they want nothing to do with his organization. Nothing. We have all the scriptures still, and as I've been able to show you, the church isn't following them. They want nothing to do with it. Give you just one of the examples. Which key is required for the first presidency of the church? And if you said Peter, James, and John, you're wrong. It's Moses. That's the key. Section 107, verse 91. Look it up for yourself. We are not Joseph's church. Joseph's church is gone from the face of the earth. And with it, the priesthood and the authority thereof. That's what Nemo and his friends in the UK do not understand. That's what Mormons and apologists and Kwaku do not understand. You guys are supporting a church that's a fraud and using Joseph Smith to perpetuate that fraud and to commit their crimes, thinking that, oh, we're a religion, we don't commit crimes. That's the danger that the church poses. So obviously you're going to get mad at me, but if you notice, I'm doing these quick videos lately. There's tons more left to do, because this kind of video lists all of them in a lengthy worded thing, whereas those quick videos, quick, simple, to the point. This is not Joseph's church. I support Joseph Smith, his church, his doctrine, his policies, and his leadership. I just don't support this current one, and that's why they don't excommunicate me.